So, today we're going to pull back the curtain on how those advanced AI assistants, the ones we call agents, actually get stuff done. This isn't just about chatbots anymore. We're talking about the secret action plans that let an AI tackle really complex multi-step problems. All right, let's get into it.
Right. So this is the big question, isn't it? When you give an AI a really meaty task, like, say, plan an entire vacation or dig through a bunch of code to find a bug, it's not just spitting out one answer. It's following a whole series of steps. But how does it come up with those steps in the first place? How does it even make a plan? That's what we're here to figure out.
And it all really comes down to this great analogy. Is the AI just following a pre-written recipe from a cookbook? Step 1, step 2, step 3, no matter what? Or is it more like a master chef, tasting, adapting, and literally inventing a new dish on the spot with whatever ingredients are in the kitchen? Okay, so to put a more formal name on it, this recipe is what researchers call a workflow. A workflow is just the AI's plan of attack. It's how it strings together all the different things it can do, using a tool, searching the web, thinking a little more with the language model. Basically, it's the whole game plan, from A to Z. So check this out. Researchers have actually mapped out what these plans look like. And you can see it's pretty complex. And this map really lays out the two big philosophies we're going to talk about. Over on the left, you've got static workflow optimization. And on the right, dynamic workflow adaptation. That's it. That's our recipe book versus our master chef. All right, so let's dig into that first approach, the one that's a bit more straightforward. We're talking about the static workflow. This is our recipe book. So a static workflow is exactly what it sounds like, a fixed, pre-designed plan. I mean, think about your go-to recipe for lasagna. You make it the same way every time because it works. And that's the big advantage here. It's reliable, it's predictable. You know exactly what the AI is going to do. But here's the catch. It's rigid. It's a one-size-fits-most solution, and it can totally fall apart if you throw it a curveball. And this quote from the research paper just hits the nail on the head. It says, you can try to patch up a bad recipe with clearer instructions or better prompts, but at some point you realize the recipe itself is the problem. Sometimes you've just got to scrap the whole thing and start over. And that, right there, is the perfect lead-in to our second idea, the much more flexible, more advanced solution, the dynamic workflow. Meet the master chef. Okay, so let's put these side by side, because this is really the heart of it. The static recipe, it's all decided beforehand. It's reliable, sure, but it's brittle. It can't handle anything new. The dynamic chef, though, that plan gets created on the fly, it's flexible, it's adaptive, and it's custom built for the problem right in front of it. It's designed to handle surprises, to deal with things a rigid plan would just, choke on. So if we go back to that big map, we're now looking at the right-hand side, the whole dynamic workflow adaptation area. You can just see it's a lot more involved. You have things like workflow generation and execution time adaptation. This isn't about following a map that's already been drawn. It's about drawing the map while you're exploring the territory. Now, this whole dynamic thing isn't just one switch you flip. It's more like a dial with different levels. At the simplest level, you have select and prune. Here, our chef just grabs a few relevant recipe pages from the cookbook and ignores the rest. Then you can crank it up to generate, where the chef sits down and writes a brand new recipe from scratch before starting. And at the highest level, you have edit. This is the real magic, where the chef is tasting the dish as it cooks and changing the recipe in real time. Okay, but wait a minute. This raises a huge question, right? If the AI is just making up its own plans, how does it have any idea if the plan is good or bad? What's the secret sauce that lets it actually learn? Exactly. How does our AI chef taste the dish? It's not like it can actually take a bite, so what does it use for feedback? Well, it turns out there are 4 main ways it gets that feedback. First up, you've got your basic metrics. Pretty simple. Did it work or not? Did it pass the test? Second, you have verifiers. Think of these as super strict rule checkers, like unit tests for code. Third is preferences. This one's interesting. Instead of a good or bad score, it's more like a taste test. Was plan A better than plan B? And last but not least, you have traces. This is where the AI literally reads its own notes, the execution log, to figure out why and where things went wrong. All right, so we've got the predictable recipe follower and the creative master chef. The obvious question is, which one is actually better? But here's the thing, that's actually the wrong question to ask. The real genius is knowing which approach to use and when.
And really, for a huge number of tasks, that simple static approach is all you need, as long as you meet 3 key conditions.
And this table just lays it all out perfectly. So look, if you're doing something super repetitive with clear rules, stick with static. It's just cheaper and way more predictable. Now, what if the task is mostly the same, but just varies in how hard it is? That's where you bring in that first level of dynamic planning, just selecting what you need. But for those moments when you're facing something totally new, where you don't even know the right steps yet, you gotta generate a fresh plan from scratch. And finally, if you're in a situation that's constantly changing, think of a live coding assistant, you need the whole shebang. The ability to edit the plan on the fly is absolutely critical.
So here's the big takeaway, the one thing to remember from all of this. The smartest move isn't always to build the most complex, adaptable AI possible. It's about using the least amount of flexibility, what the researchers call structural plasticity, that you can get away with for the job. You wouldn't hire a 5-star master chef just to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? Same idea.
And that really brings us to the big picture, the question we all need to start thinking about. As these AI agents become a bigger and bigger part of our lives, managing our work, writing our software, which one do you trust more? The reliable robot that follows the rules every single time? Or the creative genius that might just surprise you? What kind of planner do we really want building our future?